A Conscientious Objector Guide. Chapter 1. Conscientious Objector / Refuse to Fight / Pacifist. Conscientious Objector Info. A conscientious objector, or CO, is a person who refuses military service on religious or moral grounds. A conscientious objector is an individual who has claimed the right to refuse to perform military service on the grounds of freedom of thought, conscience, disability, and / or religion. It only applies to conscription or the draft. In some countries, conscientious objectors have the option do alternative civilian public service as a substitute for conscription or military service. The international definition of conscientious objection by the United Nations Commission on Human Rights is: persons performing military service should not be excluded from the right to have conscientious objections to military service. A number of organizations around the world celebrate May 15 as International Conscientious Objectors Day. Historically, many conscientious objectors have been executed, imprisoned, or otherwise penalized when they refused to fight or be part of their local and national military service. This is not the same as not fighting because you're afraid. Some people don't believe in war against other people because of their religious beliefs. Some people don't believe they should risk dying for evil acts that others do. If a government decides to fight in a war, that has nothing to do with me as a free being in the universe. I personally have no loyalty or faith to any government, even though I live in a nation like everybody else does. I get a passport and abide by minimal rules, but I will not let them infringe on my life. I'm too old to fight now, but I'm definitely a conscientious objector. Generally, governments try to shame people into signing up for military service. They often use massive patriotic propaganda to try to appeal to the machismo, naivete, and sense of adventure among young men. A lot of brainwashed people think it's your moral spiritual obligation to serve your country. They don't understand that some people think of themselves as citizens of humanity and that all nations are fantasy ideas with imaginary border lines created by people. It's the state versus the individual. Governments think they can tell people what to do even in so-called democracies. They think they simply have to write up some laws and people have to obey. That's a dictatorship. The Quakers are the champions of pacificism. The British tried to get them to fight, but they couldn't. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights states that everyone has the right to freedom of thought, conscience, and religion. This right includes freedom to change his religion or belief, and freedom, either alone or in community with others and in public or private, to manifest his religion or belief in teaching, practice, worship, and observance. Many countries, including the United States, do not use this declaration as a legal document. It is the right to refuse to kill. Amnesty International said in 1997, "The right to conscientious objection to military service is not a marginal concern outside the mainstream of international human rights protection and promotion." The Handbook on Procedures and Criteria for Determining Refugee Status, the Handbook, of the Office of the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, UNHCR, states, "Not every conviction, genuine though it may be, will constitute a sufficient reason for claiming refugee status after desertion or draft evasion. It is not enough for a person to be in disagreement with his government regarding the political justification for a particular military action. Where, however, the type of military action, with which an individual does not wish to be associated, is condemned by the international community as contrary to basic rules of human conduct, punishment for desertion or draft evasion could, in the light of all other requirements of the definition, in itself be regarded as persecution." On March 8, 1971, the Supreme Court of the United States ruled in the case of Gillette v. United States that the exemption for those who oppose participation in war in any form applies to those who oppose participating in all war and not to those who object to participation in a particular war only. On September 24, 2003, in Israel, 27 reserve pilots and former pilots refused to serve in only specific missions. These specific missions included civilian population centers in the occupied territories. Some conscientious objectors are unwilling to serve in any capacity, while others accept non-combatant roles. There is a difference between a conscientious objector and a draft dodger who doesn't want to serve because he doesn't want to risk his life in a war. Personally, I'm anti-war, so I'm against all military personnel. I don't think there should be military forces anywhere. I have no problem with draft dodgers. Anyone who is smart enough to not want to be in the military is fine by me. International institutions such as the United Nations, UN, and the Council of Europe, CO, promote conscientious objection as a human right, but most countries still have conscription laws. In many countries, conscientious objection is punished. In Germany, conscientious objection is a constitutional right. Every country has their own laws regarding refusal to be conscripted. In some countries, if you claim CO status, they might charge you criminally and throw you in jail or put you in front of a panel like a court to plead your case. In some countries, if you refuse, you might not be executed, but they'll give you a criminal record. If you're in the military and suddenly refuse to fight, you first have to claim CO status, then go through some kind of court-like process. Religious views of conscientious objection. Unitarian Universalists object to war in their sixth principle, the goal of world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. Jesus tells his followers to love their enemies and to refuse violence. Many Seventh-day Adventists refuse to enter the army as combatants, but participate as medics, ambulance drivers, etc. Isaiah 2:4 states, "Neither shall they learn war anymore." Ben Salmon was a Catholic conscientious objector during World War I. The Catholic Church denounced him. On June 5, 1917, Salmon wrote in a letter to President Wilson, "Regardless of nationality, all men are brothers. God is our Father who art in heaven. The commandment 'Thou shalt not kill' is unconditional and inexorable." The lowly Nazarene taught us the doctrine of non-resistance, and so convinced was he of the soundness of that doctrine that he sealed his belief with death on the cross. When human law conflicts with divine law, my duty is clear. Conscience, my infallible guide, impels me to tell you that prison, death, or both, are infinitely preferable to joining any branch of the army. Hindus believe in the general idea of ahimsa, non-violence, or on an explicit prohibition of violence. For a Buddhist, one of the 5 precepts is Pntiptvaramai Sikpadam Samdimi, or I undertake the precept to refrain from destroying living creatures. The 14th Dalai Lama has stated that war should be relegated to the dustbin of history. Both Sikhs and Hindus believe war should be fought to sustain life and morality in society. Baha'is are advised to do social service instead of active army service. Conscientious objector questions. Here are some common questions asked by the authorities of conscientious objectors. How and when did you decide against the military service? Why can't you arrange military service with your conscience? What prohibits you from serving in the military? Do you fear having to fight or to use force? Do you want to abolish the army? What do you think about the phrase "we have the army to defend us, not to kill others"? What would you do if you were attacked? What do you feel when you see that others are attacked? What is violence, exactly? Would you rather experience losses than having to use force? What do your beliefs say? Would you describe yourself as a pacifist? What basic values, besides objecting to violence, do you have? What entity gives you the certainty that your thinking and your feelings are right? Why didn't you choose to go into prison if your conscience is that strong? Why didn't you use medical reasons to avoid military service? What do you actually do to further peace, or is your attitude the only peaceful thing about you? Who is in charge of defending your children in case of an armed conflict? Do you live your ethical principles inside your family? What books do you read? What do you demand from yourself? Are you merely a leader, a follower, or a loner? The authorities seem to think that there is a legal difference between being a CO or a coward. By putting it in these terms, they define the rules of the game. They do not have any right to force anyone to serve in their armies by the universal law of freedom. Nobody has the right to tell you what to do as long as you mind your own business. Some conscientious objector organizations. Here is a list of some CO organizations and terms. Anglican Pacifist Fellowship, Baptist Peace Fellowship of North America, Catholic Worker Movement, Central Committee for Conscientious Objectors, Christian Anarchism, Center on Conscience and War, Conscientious Objection to Military Taxation, Fellowship of Reconciliation, Friends Ambulance Unit, GI Rights Network, Medical Cadet Corps, Pax Christi, Peace Movement, Peace Pledge Union, the National Registry for Conscientious Objection, International Conscientious Objectors Day, War Resisters International, the European Bureau for Conscientious Objection, Mennonite Central Committee's listing of resources for conscientious objection, US and Canada. Watch His Conscience, A Short History of the Conscientious Objector. By Michael D. Peabody. Catholic Peace Fellowship. The Right to Refuse to Bear Arms by War Resisters International. A Conscientious Objector's Guide to the UN Human Rights System. A Call for Conscientious Objection. By Dieter Dumm. Christian Conscientious Objector Procedure to either leave the military or avoid the draft. If these websites are gone, try archive.org. The book's ISBN is 978-0-615-26168-3. ChristianPacifism.com. Peacehost.net/ChristianCO, Procedures for a Soldier to Leave the Military as a Conscientious Objector. Peacehost.net/ChristianCO/Procedures Book 5.pdf. SoldiersIKnow.blogspot.com. Muhammad Ali, the first modern American high-profile war objector. I ain't got no quarrel with them Viet Cong. They never called me nigger. Muhammad Ali, 1966. Muhammad Ali started out named Cassius Clay in the Louisville, Kentucky area. He won the gold medal in heavyweight boxing in the 1960 Olympics. Then he went home and saw that the same racism that existed before he won the medal. He won the World Heavyweight Championship from Sonny Liston in 1964. Shortly after that, he joined the Nation of Islam and changed his name to Muhammad Ali. In 1967, Ali refused to be conscripted into the U.S. military to fight in the Vietnam War. He was arrested, convicted of draft evasion charges and stripped of his boxing title. His conviction was overturned in 1971. Ali refused to be inducted into the armed forces, stating that he had no quarrel with them Viet Cong. He said, "My conscience won't let me go shoot my brother, or some darker people, or some poor hungry people in the mud for big powerful America. And shoot them for what? They never called me nigger, they never lynched me, they didn't put no dogs on me, they didn't rob me of my nationality, rape, or kill my mother and father. How can I shoot them poor people? Just take me to jail." Between 1967 and 1971, Ali spoke at colleges, criticizing the Vietnam War and advocating Black Power. You can find some of his speeches on YouTube and on other websites like pbs.org. Here is a bit from an anti-war speech. I ain't draft dodgin'. I ain't burnin' no flag. And I ain't runnin' to Canada. I'm stayin' right here. You want to send me to jail? Fine, you go right ahead. I've been in jail for 400 years. I can be there for 4 or 5 more. But I ain't goin' number 10,000 miles to help murder and kill other poor people. If I want to die, I'll die right here, right now fightin' you if I want to die. You my enemy. Not no Chinese, no Viet Cong, no Japanese. You my opposer when I want freedom. You my opposer when I want justice. You my opposer when I want equality. Want me to go to somewhere and I fight for you. You won't even stand up for me right here in America for my rights and my religious beliefs. You won't even stand up for me right here at home. Articles at the dead website web.archive.org/web/20070313185616/http://www.nonviolence.org. Quakers created this website, put some decent stuff up, then the website died. Conscientious Objector websites. Alternativesservice.ca americanbird.org/conscientiousobjectors.html amnesty.org amnestyusa.org bahai-library.com bayfsky.com catholicpeacefellowship.org centeronconscience.org civilianpublicservice.org digplanet.com/wiki/conscientious_objector_support_group ebco-beoc.eu firstliberty.org/rights/conscientious-objector jw-media.org libertymagazine.org mcc.org/co nationalpeacemuseum.org/history.html okchar.org okchar.org/documents/publications/conscientious-objection_n.pdf pbs.org/now/shows/334/conscientious-objection.html psabi.org/confcenter/co registry.htm psabi.org/programs-projects/conscientious-objectors ppu.org.uk/co projects/co projectindex.html quakersintheworld.org religiostolerance.org resistors.info/choice.html sanantonioquakers.org sdarm.org/origin.htm seruvi.org.il sidadventist.org sss.gov/consubj swarthmore.edu/library/peace/peace website/scpc website/documents/co sources.htm tamara.org thehastingcenter.org thenation.com thenorthernecho.co.uk thirdway.com/prepare-for-peace/conscientious-objector-status unac.org/rights/question.html unhcr.org volunteerinfo.org/central-committee-for-conscientious-objectors wri-irg.org war resistors Wikipedia Conscientious Objector websites en.wikipedia.org/wiki/category:conscientious_objection en.wikipedia.org/wiki/conscientious_objector en.wikipedia.org/wiki/conscription en.wikipedia.org/wiki/military_service en.wikipedia.org/wiki/14th_Dalai_Lama en.wikipedia.org/wiki/ahimsa en.wikipedia.org/wiki/alternative_civilian_service en.wikipedia.org/wiki/alternative_service en.wikipedia.org/wiki/Amish en.wikipedia.org/wiki/amnesty_international en.wikipedia.org/wiki/an_act_of_conscience en.wikipedia.org/wiki/anarcho-pacifism en.wikipedia.org/wiki/anarcho-punk en.wikipedia.org/wiki/anti-imperialism en.wikipedia.org/wiki/anti-militarism en.wikipedia.org/wiki/anti-militarist en.wikipedia.org/wiki/anti-nuclear_movement en.wikipedia.org/wiki/anti-nuclear_organizations en.wikipedia.org/wiki/anti-war_movement en.wikipedia.org/wiki/appeasement en.wikipedia.org/wiki/Austrians en.wikipedia.org/wiki/beatification en.wikipedia.org/wiki/bed-in en.wikipedia.org/wiki/Bernd_Eisenfeld en.wikipedia.org/wiki/Buddhist en.wikipedia.org/wiki/category:conscientious_objection. en.wikipedia.org/wiki/category:conscientious_objectors. en.wikipedia.org/wiki/category:conscription. en.wikipedia.org/wiki/category:conscription_by_country. en.wikipedia.org/wiki/category:nonviolence. en.wikipedia.org/wiki/category:pacifism_in_Canada. en.wikipedia.org/wiki/category:pacifism_in_Germany. en.wikipedia.org/wiki/category:pacifism_in_the_Netherlands. en.wikipedia.org/wiki/category:pacifism_in_the_United_Kingdom. en.wikipedia.org/wiki/category:pacifism_in_the_United_States. en.wikipedia.org/wiki/category:peace_monuments_and_memorials. en.wikipedia.org/wiki/category:tax_resistors. en.wikipedia.org/wiki/central_park_b-ins. en.wikipedia.org/wiki/Christadelphians. en.wikipedia.org/wiki/Christian. en.wikipedia.org/wiki/Christian_anarchism. en.wikipedia.org/wiki/Christian_pacifism. en.wikipedia.org/wiki/Church_of_the_Brethren. en.wikipedia.org/wiki/civil_disobedience_left (thorough right). en.wikipedia.org/wiki/civilian_public_service. en.wikipedia.org/wiki/civilian_service. en.wikipedia.org/wiki/clerices_laicos. en.wikipedia.org/wiki/coming_into_force. en.wikipedia.org/wiki/committee_for_non-violent_action. en.wikipedia.org/wiki/conscientious_objection_to_military_taxation. en.wikipedia.org/wiki/conscription_crisis. en.wikipedia.org/wiki/conscription_crisis_of_1918. en.wikipedia.org/wiki/conscription_in_Cyprus. en.wikipedia.org/wiki/conscription_in_Finland. en.wikipedia.org/wiki/conscription_in_Greece. en.wikipedia.org/wiki/conscription_in_Russia. en.wikipedia.org/wiki/conscription_in_the_United_Kingdom. en.wikipedia.org/wiki/conscription_in_the_United_States. en.wikipedia.org/wiki/conscription_in_Turkey. en.wikipedia.org/wiki/conservative_Mennonites. en.wikipedia.org/wiki/Constantinian_shift. en.wikipedia.org/wiki/council_of_Europe. en.wikipedia.org/wiki/counterculture_of_the_1960s. en.wikipedia.org/wiki/criticism_the_war_on_terror. en.wikipedia.org/wiki/crusade. en.wikipedia.org/wiki/desertion. en.wikipedia.org/wiki/Dickinson_v. United_States. en.wikipedia.org/wiki/direct_action. en.wikipedia.org/wiki/Dukabor. en.wikipedia.org/wiki/draft_dodger. en.wikipedia.org/wiki/draft_evasion. en.wikipedia.org/wiki/early_Christian_church en.wikipedia.org/wiki/European_Court_of_human_rights en.wikipedia.org/wiki/fellowship_of_reconciliation en.wikipedia.org/wiki/file: peace_sign.svg en.wikipedia.org/wiki/finvenk-ismo en.wikipedia.org/wiki/5_precepts en.wikipedia.org/wiki/freedom_of_conscience en.wikipedia.org/wiki/freedom_of_religion en.wikipedia.org/wiki/friends%sign27_ambulance_unit en.wikipedia.org/wiki/George_Bellows en.wikipedia.org/wiki/gi_rights_network en.wikipedia.org/wiki/gillette_v._united_states en.wikipedia.org/wiki/hippie en.wikipedia.org/wiki/human_be-in en.wikipedia.org/wiki/human_right en.wikipedia.org/wiki/human_rights_committee en.wikipedia.org/wiki/Indian_religions en.wikipedia.org/wiki/international_campaign_to_ban_landmines en.wikipedia.org/wiki/international_community en.wikipedia.org/wiki/international_covenant_on_civil_in_political_rights en.wikipedia.org/wiki/international_day_of_non-violence en.wikipedia.org/wiki/international_day_of_peace en.wikipedia.org/wiki/isolationism en.wikipedia.org/wiki/Jehovah%sign27s_witnesses en.wikipedia.org/wiki/Jesus en.wikipedia.org/wiki/John_Courtney_Murray en.wikipedia.org/wiki/just_war en.wikipedia.org/wiki/Kellogg-Bryant_pact en.wikipedia.org/wiki/Kevin_Benderman en.wikipedia.org/wiki/list_anti-war_films en.wikipedia.org/wiki/list_anti-war_organizations en.wikipedia.org/wiki/list_anti-war_songs en.wikipedia.org/wiki/list_books_with_anti-war_themes en.wikipedia.org/wiki/list_historical_acts_of_resistance en.wikipedia.org/wiki/list_Iraq_war_resistors en.wikipedia.org/wiki/list_pacifist_faiths en.wikipedia.org/wiki/list_peace_activists en.wikipedia.org/wiki/list_named_after_peace en.wikipedia.org/wiki/list_plays_with_anti-war_themes en.wikipedia.org/wiki/medical_cadet_corps en.wikipedia.org/wiki/militia_left _Great_Britain right en.wikipedia.org/wiki/moral_authority en.wikipedia.org/wiki/national_service en.wikipedia.org/wiki/non-aggression_principle en.wikipedia.org/wiki/non-combatant. en.wikipedia.org/wiki/non-interventionism. en.wikipedia.org/wiki/non-killing. en.wikipedia.org/wiki/non-resistance. en.wikipedia.org/wiki/non-violence. en.wikipedia.org/wiki/nuclear_disarmament. en.wikipedia.org/wiki/Nuremberg_principles. en.wikipedia.org/wiki/Nuremberg_trials. en.wikipedia.org/wiki/office_of_the_High_for_human_rights. en.wikipedia.org/wiki/old_order_Mennonite. en.wikipedia.org/wiki/Operation_Whitecoat. en.wikipedia.org/wiki/opposition_military_action_against_Iran. en.wikipedia.org/wiki/opposition_the_American_civil_war. en.wikipedia.org/wiki/opposition_the_Iraq_war. en.wikipedia.org/wiki/opposition_the_second_Boer_war. en.wikipedia.org/wiki/opposition_the_war_of_in_the_United_States. en.wikipedia.org/wiki/opposition_the_United_States_in_the_Vietnam_war. en.wikipedia.org/wiki/opposition_world_war_I. en.wikipedia.org/wiki/opposition_world_war_2. en.wikipedia.org/wiki/Orkneyinga_saga. en.wikipedia.org/wiki/Pacificism. en.wikipedia.org/wiki/pacifism. en.wikipedia.org/wiki/pacifism_in_Spain. en.wikipedia.org/wiki/paganism. en.wikipedia.org/wiki/Parisi_v._Davidson. en.wikipedia.org/wiki/Pax_Christi. en.wikipedia.org/wiki/peace_in_conflict_studies. en.wikipedia.org/wiki/peace_camp. en.wikipedia.org/wiki/peace_churches. en.wikipedia.org/wiki/peace_churches. en.wikipedia.org/wiki/peace_commission. en.wikipedia.org/wiki/peace_education. en.wikipedia.org/wiki/peace_journalism. en.wikipedia.org/wiki/peace_movement. en.wikipedia.org/wiki/peace_movement #Israel. en.wikipedia.org/wiki/peace_news. en.wikipedia.org/wiki/peace_pledge_union. en.wikipedia.org/wiki/peace_symbols. en.wikipedia.org/wiki/peace_walk. en.wikipedia.org/wiki/peacemakers. en.wikipedia.org/wiki/planka.nu. en.wikipedia.org/wiki/pope_Benedict_16. en.wikipedia.org/wiki/promoting_enduring_peace. en.wikipedia.org/wiki/protests_against_the_2011 military_intervention_in_Libya.